Hi, Dr. Michelle here with more secrets of life and death. Today, I'm going to talk about the virus and how it can be an opportunity for us to find out more about ourselves. I want you to take a moment and check in. You can feel the global fear, especially if you are a coach or healer. Your antennae are out and experiencing that. But actually all of us as human beings, all human beings, can feel the energy of the herd, the whole community. And we're experiencing this big time because it is global. It's not just, in Santa Rosa, the fires, or in New Orleans, the hurricane. This is global. And it's influencing all of us. It's affecting our thoughts. It's affecting our bodies. It's affecting our dreams. And there is really no escape. Although, certainly, we might try to escape, to distract ourselves, to stay busy. But this is going to go on for a long time. So how have you been doing this first week? How have you been doing it, distracting yourself and staying busy? Some point in the middle of the night, it might dawn on you. I remember, thank you for joining. Last night, I found myself with a dry cough, and I thought to myself, oh my goodness, maybe I have the virus. And then I said, well, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I don't have a fever. And I managed to calm myself. But that fear is just really, it's so palpable. It is inescapable, and that is where the opportunity lies. When we usually take breaks in our lives, we go on vacation. Hi, Esther, thanks for joining. When we take breaks in our lives, we often are so busy entertaining ourselves that we never stop and check in and say, well, how are things going? Now, maybe as a coach or a healer or a leader, you do regularly check in. But this is an opportunity to check in at a level that is quite, it's not totally unprecedented. As a grief coach for years, that's what my clients were dealing with, was that sudden transformation of their life experience that pushed them face to face with who they were or who they are and what life was going to be now, because everything had changed. And that's what this virus opportunity is. But we're all in it together. It's not like you're singled out. And so this is an amazing and momentous opportunity. There are two kinds of fears. The two basic fears of being alive and human in this three-dimensional plane. One is death, and the other is being alone. And they're connected because as social beings, we depend on each other for survival. And so if we are alone, it conjures up that primal fear of death, of not being able to survive. But let's talk about the fear of death first. We're so afraid of death that we don't like to even think about it. We don't like to talk about it. It is, if you put that as a title in one of your websites, people will avoid it because they do not want to think about death. But actually it's not death, it's really getting to death or the idea of death, because we don't have any first-hand experience of death, really, unless you are one of those people who had one of those near-death experiences, in which case you're probably not even on this call because you already know what to expect. But the rest of us, it's an abstraction. However, the body's survival response is real. And when we feel that fear, and this fear has been provoked by all those numbers on the internet about how many people are getting infected and who's vulnerable to dying, that's real. What else is real? Our thoughts about what it would be or mean to die. Loss of a future. Loss of being able to finish your plans. Maybe dying with regret because there are so many things that you haven't done. In addition, there's fear around who you would leave behind, fear of or sadness or grief about loss of connection. So those are real. Now on the body level, as I said there, hi Darren, thank you for joining. So on the body level, there is a real physiological response to this scare. And so you may notice in your body that there is a tightening of muscles. There may be a constriction around your throat. You may be hyper alert as you pay attention to all the news. And you may become a voracious consumer of all the news in order to understand, because the big fear is the uncertainty. Now, I know that there are a lot of people out there in the world that live all the time with uncertainty, and they're probably struggling with fear. Okay, so here's the fear side, or the death side of fear. Afraid of death, and yet we don't really know what it is. So it's really our minds that create the anxiety and tension, because we really have no experience. We have no memory. We just have, our associations with it. Now the other fear, which is the fear of isolation, of abandonment, of disconnection from the social group, that is a real fear. That is a fear that all of us have probably at some time in our lives personally experienced. As a child, maybe feeling unworthy or not good enough or not wanted or imperfect or damaged. And it is a motivator for a lot of our behaviors, that fear of being rejected, of being isolated, of being denied. In fact, being put in isolation is one of the most serious punishments that can ever be meted out to a person. People actually start to get psychotic from being totally separated from their connection with other people. So it's real. This isolation is real on a physiological level as human beings. But it's also real on the mind level. And I was thinking about the virus and how it brings up both of those things so much. It puts them into relief. And the isolation, the fact that we're actually having to, sequester in place? I guess the term is so ridiculous. But we are isolating. And if you are alone, you have an opportunity to really examine what that aloneness means and what that feels like. Not to have somebody else sharing your space with you. Now, on the other hand, if you have somebody who's sharing this space with you, this is an opportunity to ask yourself, how is it going? Is this working for me? Oftentimes we make do or adapt or adjust to whatever is because we're so busy taking care of business, so busy working, so busy distracting ourselves. The virus is saying, oh, wake up, pay attention. Is this how you want your life to be? Now there's another aspect of the virus, and that is, and this kind of goes to the fear of the virus, if you get the virus, what does it say about you? Does that make you somehow a failure? Like you didn't follow the protocol, or you screwed up somewhere, you didn't wash your hands enough? And two, you might be damaging to somebody else. Maybe you are going to pass it on. And so you feel blameworthy in that respect. And finally, you may actually feel dirty if you're sick. Although my guess is that when you're really sick, you do not give a damn about anybody else because you are so busy being in the moment, struggling with that illness. But it does remind me of an interview I did with a young man who had AIDS. I guess it was, a few days before he died. And it was for my film series called Facing Death with Open Eyes. And he talked about a time when a woman was having trouble with her baby, and he reached out and calmed the baby, and then went away feeling traumatized by touching that baby and feeling contagious, feeling like he was evil. and that ultimately his awakening was realizing that he was a good person regardless of having AIDS. So there is that aspect of the virus. This virus is that if you get sick, that you may be responsible for other people being sick, of being dirty, of being soiled. I'm going to check my notes. So the question that this puts forward to us is about ourselves, about how we're living our lives. Is this work? It gives us the time to really examine that. Is this life working for you? What is essential in your life? The problem is that when you do this self-examination, unless you have done a lot of work on yourself, you're going to be listening to the voice of the inner child, the wounded inner child, who is going to vote for safety, vote for doing the small thing, not taking risks, not standing in your power. And what I'm inviting you to do is to do exactly that, to stand in your power, to step up, to say, oh my goodness, this life is small, short, precious. And what am I going to do so that I do not die with regret? That was my wake-up call years ago when my mother was dying. She conveyed to me the importance of living your life on purpose, living your passion. And so this virus and the time it provides for us, and the fact that it reminds us that life is certainty, that it exists, it provides us with that opportunity to check and say, am I on track? Am I on my course? Am I doing what I want to do? Or am I doing what other people want me to do? And what are my choices? Again, I invite you not to do this alone with your inner child. Instead, I invite you to join my 5-day makeover challenge in Facebook. There is a link in the comment section where you can join the group in which, starting on March 30th, I'm going to be posting videos every day and worksheets for you to explore this question of who are you, what's holding you back, and where do you want to go. And we're going to end the end of the week with a webinar, and I'm going to be answering questions throughout the week so that you can get a start. You can make use of this time productively. That's always been my, well, not always, but certainly since I stepped into my power and my purpose, is looking at everything that is a difficulty or a challenge as also an opportunity. And that is what I've conveyed to my grief clients over the years, the people who have had significant loss or change, to utilize that as an opportunity for self-exploration and for transformation. My experience is the universe sends us these challenges to wake us up. Let me see if I have anything else to say. Right, so back to the inner child. So part of the reason why you don't want to listen to her is that she comes from a place of fear, because as a little girl or a little boy, we were vulnerable and dependent on other people, and we learned behavior patterns that kept us safe. Now those behavior patterns may very well be the very blocks or barriers to your self-empowerment and fulfillment. The other thing that happens is unconscious beliefs. Beliefs about the way in which the world is. And you may be experiencing some of those beliefs right now. And how are they holding you back from stepping into your brilliance, into who you really are meant to be? The brilliance is the key. The brilliance is the key to everything. Brilliance is my word for spirit, for connecting to your most sacred gifts, connecting to who you really are. That ultimately is the pathway to no fear. It is the pathway to love. Because underneath that fear of being rejected or abandoned or disconnected from the social tribe is the loss of love. It is the most important part of our childhood and the part of our childhood that we were most likely to have lost. When you connect with spirit, you connect to a love at a different level. I know this for a fact because I have been studying with a spiritual teacher for over 35 years. And I have personally experienced what it is to connect with that resource inside of every one of us, that connection to who you really are. And that is the real purpose of this makeover challenge, to connect you with your true source. That's it for today. I hope you join the Facebook group so that we can, starting on March 30th, engage in a makeover. For now, stay safe, stay calm, be brilliant. Bye for now.